Damn, are these wildly different companies despite all hawking AI chips of some capacity. Nvidia and CEO Jensen Huang are leading the pack on the AI chip front. AMD CEO Lisa Su is putting up a great fight against Nvidia. And Intel, well, it's trying to do something in AI chips and trying to turn itself around. All of this brings me to today's question of the day. What's the best way to profit off the AI revolution? Do you stay long a leader like Nvidia? Do you wager, and can you take that an AMD could take market share away from Nvidia? Or do you toss a Hail Mary pass and go all in on an Intel turnaround? Dan Ives, I'm thinking you're not a big believer in Intel.
Well, look, I mean, you got to think where Intel is today relative to obviously Trump backing and Nvidia is a whole different story than a year ago. So I do think, look, to me, to play the trade for semis, it's Godfather of AI, Nvidia. You got to own everything Lisa Su's doing, AMD, Micron, Broadcom and others. Look, Intel, I think that has to be a piece of the portfolio, just given that they're going to play more and more of a role in the AI revolution. You cannot just count them out. They're no longer, like if we were at a wedding, they're no longer at that table by the sort of kitchen with the random people that you're at. They're getting closer to the cooler table.
I'm at the cooler table now, Dan. Gil,
you're always at the cooler table.
Nah, it's taken me a while, Dan. It's taken me a while.
Part of it,
Yeah, no, I used to be that guy by hanging out by the fridge. Gil, look, out of these three stocks, is it Nvidia or bust, or can you make a case for Nvidia and Intel?
For the AI trade, we would stick with what's going to work in a wide range of scenarios, which is Microsoft and Nvidia. Whether we're late in the cycle or early in the cycle, those two have created most of the value so far, and they'll continue to create most of the value so far. So we focus on those. We probably stay away from marginal players in the data center space, in the semi space. We actually think there's still opportunities in software. You can't do AI in an enterprise context without having all the data in one place. That's why you need Snowflake. You can't do AI in an enterprise context without observing the applications that are running that are more complicated than ever. You need Datadog for that. So we wouldn't forget about the fact that a lot of the good investments in AI are still in software, Microsoft, Snowflake, and Datadog. But again, one way or another, we're using NVIDIA chips to do all this.
Yeah, and coming out to you here, first and foremost, you were at CES. What do you think of Jensen's speech?
The Godfather of AI spoke, right? I mean, I think it just shows physical AI is here. This is the next stage in terms of coming to the consumer. Look, and I think if you walk out of there thinking that this is an AI bubble, then I think you had a little too much something to drink, or in Vegas. Because look, the reality is that this just we're talking about trillions of dollars being spent. And I think that's the one thing. This is kind of the blueprint on the physical AI front that Jensen laid out.
Gil, over to you. What do you think?
I think that what NVIDIA has done successfully is create an enormous data center market, much bigger than we thought. And right now, it's trading just on this data center market. And in fact, it's trading really as if that cycle is about to roll over. That's, to your point, why NVIDIA is so inexpensive, is that really all it's pricing in is a data center market that's getting close to a peak, where what we saw yesterday is that Jensen Huang's already thinking about what's next. And what's next is putting this GPU content at the edge on devices that will have the ability to do AI in a physical context, whether it's more automobiles or robots or other manifestations of AI at the edge. The question is, what's going to be the timing on that? Is that going to come soon enough to extend the data center cycle and get investors excited about NVIDIA again?
Ines, I want to sit here for the next half hour and talk about robots. I think they're cute, they're not cuddly, they're machines. I get it, I see the use cases for it. I'm glad that robots are getting into factories. Some big news out yesterday from Boston Dynamics. But I think the most important thing, Ines, is that the Vera Rubin chips look like they are ahead of schedule, and they're going to get right in the hands of customers, I would think, quicker than many on the people on the street thought. Just not Dan and Gil.
That's right, and that's what Wall Street wanted to see, that main point that they are on track with Rubin, and that it is going to be for the second half of 2026. And this is what we've heard from strategists. The main point, they're on track. But yes, beyond that, robots, beyond that, autonomous driving. And I will point, Sozzi, that the fact that, he's got a great jacket on and everything. But
look at that jacket. Love it.
It's amazing, and probably you can Google to see who makes it, and it's probably sold out. But in any case, Jensen Huang has an ability to be able to distill very complex topics. I mean, you have to be a mega engineer to know all of this stuff, but he has an ability to distill these in very simple terms, or in as simple terms as possible, and really to get the average person pumped up about this. I mean, if you have half of a pulse, you'd be psyched to see this kind of future ahead.
The only person at CS dressed better than Jensen, that was our man, Dan Ives. Always bringing it there, Dan. Look, I want to get back onto NVIDIA real quick, but I want to mention AMD and Lisa Su. Speech of her own yesterday, Dan. Have you ever heard of a Yada flop? She mentioned it. I never heard of it. Is it a big deal for the chip industry?
Look, and first, I just want to say, Gil mentioned a great point about what's being baked into NVIDIA here. I think that's really important. Like, just the tip of the sphere. I think that's important what's happened in terms of valuations across the board. Look, the reality is, like, Lisa Su and AMD. Look, if Lisa Su's flying the plane, I'm in 3A, feeling really good watching Netflix. Because the reality is that they are going to be a core player in this next stage of the AI revolution. I don't think that's being factored into AMD stock. That's why, we think, 350 is not out of the question in terms of where this thing could go. But I think this is going to be a big conversation on the floor today at CES in terms of what we heard from Lisa.
Dan, loved your note this morning. You think that NVIDIA can exceed a $5 trillion market cap in the near term and ultimately a $6 trillion market cap. I don't think I've seen that $6 trillion number from you before. What has to happen for them to get there, and what is the timeline?
I think it's about, if you look at the valuation today, you're not factoring in autonomous. You're not factoring robotics. I think street numbers could go up another 15, 20% conservatively. And it speaks to our point. The reason this is a tech bull market that we continue to think 10:30 p.m. in the party that goes to 4 a.m., street's not factoring in the ultimate demand that's happening globally. And for the first time in 30 years, U.S. is ahead of China when it comes to tech. And there's one chip in the world fueling the AI revolution. That guy's wearing a black leather jacket, sometimes alligator leather. His name's Jensen.
Gil, I want to give you a shout out because yesterday you came out with some awesome research. But one name in particular caught my attention, and that was on CoreWeave. You were bearish on CoreWeave for a while. Right call by and large. That stock has been under severe pressure, a lot of concerns on that business model, but you issued what you called a reluctant upgrade. My question to you is, anything that you heard from Jensen or Lisa Su or even Intel yesterday, does that make you feel more comfortable in CoreWeave in that call you just made?
Yeah, we would continue to stay away from marginal players like CoreWeave, like Oracle. I don't like seeing them, Dan, in your ETF. The Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, those are going to be the companies that create value in AI. Marginal players are just borrowing money to build speculative capacity, and they're doing it while destroying value. We continue to stay away from them. The only reason we upgraded is everybody was so negative on CoreWeave, and we think there's a chance that OpenAI can do what it's targeting this quarter, which is raise $100 billion of equity at a $750 billion pre-money valuation by the end of March. If that happens, Dan's party goes into overdrive. If OpenAI can get there, then the party, everybody's going to double down on AI. We think that may not happen, that OpenAI may be a little too ambitious in this raise, but that's what we're looking for. In terms of what we heard from NVIDIA, we heard that Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, Meta, Elon, they're going to have fantastic new chips towards the end of the year, and that NVIDIA is keeping its lead over everybody else. That's why Rubin's important, is that it makes sure that they're going to continue to be better than AMD, than anything Broadcom can make, and that's what we heard yesterday.
Dan, do circular financing concerns keep you up at night?
Well, first off, I mean, I've asked Gil, I need his suit size number because I got the pink and the purple sports jacket ready with some camo. And so, yeah, for the party. Again, everything he's talking about. Again, circular financing is not keeping me up at night. This is as we talk about, it's third inning, one out in the AI revolution. You talk about demand and supply NVIDIA chips 12 to 1. This is building out, and OpenAI and NVIDIA are core parts of it, what's essentially a new economy. But this is not a vendor financing sort of red flag that concerns me. And I think that will be proven out this year as it plays out. But it comes down to if someone said, invest $1 or take out debt for $1 and you're going to get 12 to 15 in the next 2-3 years, would you take it? And that's what I think Oracle's doing. And that's what I think OpenAI, and that's what Nvidia and AMD.
And as to the point of Dan and Gil, you're watching the CES coverage from 130-inch Samsung TVs on stands to various robots that want to come to your house and do your laundry. It's hard. You'll, of course, have to stay skeptical of what's going on in technology, but you're actually now seeing physical use cases for so many different things in the world of AI. It's hard to really, really, really be concerned about circular financing.
Yeah, because you're seeing that these technologies are going to be doing things that we can't even imagine yet. I mean, you saw Jensen Huang on stage with that little robot there, and then the way they were also training that robot, and I thought to myself, this is insane. I mean, I can imagine this. My daughter running around now with robots around her, and then he talks about autonomous driving, and in 10 years, a large portion of cars will be autonomous. That is going to change completely, and I'm thinking she may not even need a license in 10 years because she'll just get in an autonomous car. I mean, this is going to change the way we live in this world, and it's fascinating to see.
Antoine, I want to start with you and what we heard from NVIDIA. As I said, we'll broaden it out in a moment, but what to you was most significant? Because Jensen Huang is very good at painting these grand visions. What did investors most want to hear from him, and did he deliver?
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me on the show. So I think what's most interesting here is to see NVIDIA capable of rolling out 6 new chips, like a CPU, a GPU, networking switches, NICs. That illustrates, the kind of co-design that's required to keep improving system-level performance at that kind of pace. NVIDIA is really synchronizing every year multiple silicon and software building blocks, and the whole unit of computing ends up landing together, working as expected, generation after generation. And when this platform lands, NVIDIA is structurally the best placed vendor to sell you the networking systems that are validated to work with all of that on day one. And that kind of integration, time to market, and ecosystem strength really play together, and that's what is feeding NVIDIA's market power today.
Ivana, I want to turn to you on this. Is this all, though, just sort of incremental, or is it, what does NVIDIA need to do to keep this momentum going, and can it just sort of do more of what it's been doing? Is that enough?
Well, I think it's enough, right? Because as long as the numbers are keep going up, there's going to be upside in the stock. From the event specifically, this was more of a check the box moment and making sure that they are delivering on the next generation platform. It seemed like everything was on track. Just for background, the shift from this generation is much simpler than when we were shifting from Hopper to Blackwell. So I think that should give investors some confidence that this transition goes smoothly.
And so, when we're looking at the stock performance, Antoine, I'll take it back to you. We're not seeing a heck of a lot of upside here this morning following these comments.
I think, we've seen that for some time now. NVIDIA has been, trading on low 20s, 2027 earnings. And I think, now investors are just concerned about how growth will normalize, beyond 27. We have great visibility on 26. Hyperscalers have laid out their CapEx plans. It's consistent, with the 500 billion of bookings that Jensen has been talking about. But now the key question is how fast is CapEx going to grow beyond 27? That's question number one that investors are concerned about. Question number two is, of course, the market is going to be so large that NVIDIA is going to have to make room for alternatives, for ASICs, for AMD. And so the other question is, how much room is NVIDIA going to make, and how much is NVIDIA's data center business going to grow, as a result of CapEx growing, how much NVIDIA going to grow? So those are the concerns that I think are waiting on the stock today.
Ivana, if one of the things that Jensen said yesterday was that, they're trying to make chips more energy efficient, more cost effective, then why would CapEx need to be, wouldn't that imply a lower CapEx is necessary?
No, actually, it's kind of the opposite, right? Because basically, where we are sitting here today, cost per token are still extremely high. So basically, the cost to use AI is extremely high, which is preventing a lot of these AI agents from gaining broad adoption. So you're gonna need a lot more compute at a much lower cost. So that's basically why CapEx numbers are going significantly higher, even though we're getting so much better performance.